Shalom everyone, Servant RD here, back at you with another video. This one is entitled The Evolution of the Elect. Brothers and sisters, I never would have thought the prophecies that were spoken, the prophecies that were written in our holy manuscript, and all of the Hebrew Israelites that's been preaching truth to power, that day that we have been warning the people about. I never thought that day would come so soon. And so earlier this morning around 6 o'clock, just before I left the house, I did a quick video on Facebook, and I talked about not allowing your heart to be hardened. And I used the analogy of a woman in labor and how her birth pains, they become more frequent. And as the baby approached the birth canal, the labor gets more intense. And I compared that to the events that's going on. And I was moved to warn the people not to allow these events to cause their hearts to be hardened, because sometimes when a calamity happens and then it subsides, everybody, they are fearful and they are aroused and anxious at the beginning and during the calamity. But then after everything ends, they go back into their old habits and their the way they thought before the event occurred. And so that's a functioning of one who's hardening their heart. And so I feel like we have to be mindful when these things happen, not to start rationalizing everything away, coming up with some kind of scientific explanation, because what we're doing, we're just trying to find and wiggle our way and our minds out of what is really going on, which is the hand of the Most High moving across the land. We don't want to think like that. And so that video, it was about 7 minutes long, and I just wanted to, remind everyone, the audience, those who tune in, I just wanted to remind them not to allow their hearts to be hardened, because all in all, what the Father is doing, he is making a transition in this kingdom. The church call it the shift. Let's get ready for the shift. I feel that God is about to do something. To touch your neighbor, touch 3 people and say, God is about to do something. God is about to do something. God is about to do something. I feel like I can see how your blessing is on the way. All that nonsense is over. It's something that was developed through this Gentile system. See, the end of the last kingdom is here, and the beginning of the first kingdom is on its way. That's the transition. That's what I'm talking about. That transition of this last kingdom. And so when you read in the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter, when Yahushua said, I think it's the 13th or 14th verse, he said, and this gospel shall be preached into all the world, then the end shall come. But what end? The end of the world? Yeah, but not the world as we know it. The end of the Gentile world, the end of the Gentile infrastructure, the end of the Gentile. They organize conceptions and they established order. It's the end of that. And now we are witnessing the Father's kingdom being restored to his people. The evolution of the elect. Who are the elect? Those very people that the whole world hates. The whole world hates with a passion, but guess what? The Father is raising his elect up. Those Negroes, those black people, those people that no one wants to hear. We are witnessing a people that have hid themselves and masqueraded themselves in just about every religious belief system and just about every identity that they could find and, put on. And that the identity that they could wear, they wore it. They call themselves the Jews. They call themselves, they painted the picture of the Messiah. They call themselves Moses, Charleston Heston, Daniel in the lion den was a Gentile. Even Adam, John the Revelator on the Isle of Patmos was a Gentile. And so I'm talking about the Gentiles. They have lived deliciously for a long, very, very long time, brothers and sisters. But the shift is happening. The evolution of the elect. What's going on, brothers and sisters? That all the masquerades that the Gentiles portrayed, you know what? They now got to prove those character traits. You can't just pretend to be something and not pay the cost to be the boss. Oh yeah, they thought they paid the cost, but they have not. When you pretend, Gentile, that you were Hebrews, don't you know the Hebrews were supposed to go through slavery? Why would you put on that identity? When you pose to be Daniel, but ain't never been in the lion's den. When you pose as Esau, and now you must suffer the fate that Esau suffered. The end of Esau's kingdom was a detriment event. And now you must also go through those atrocities, those sufferings and sorrows and persecutions. See, Gentile, you never really experience the sufferings as a nation. Oh yeah, you may have experienced hardships and burdens as individuals, but you never experienced it as a people. Guess what? Your time has come. Why? Because the Father has initiated the evolution of the elect. You see, an evolution is a gradual development from a simple form to a more complex one. We've been a simple-minded people for a long time, but guess what? That simplicity has been changing and developing through the corridors of time, through all of our trials, through all our tribulation. Everything that you have done to us as a people, the elect are the ones that the Father has chosen at the foundation, before the foundation of the world. And what you didn't realize, Gentile, when you were trying to wipe these people out, these Negroes out, these niggers out, when you hung them from trees, when you burned them alive, when you castrated them, when you cut off limbs, when you committed every atrocious act known to man to these people, there was a gradual process that the Father was working, walking in these people whom you hated. Well, it was a love to hate situation. You loved what they had, but you hated them. You also hated that dark pigmentation, so you did everything in your power to try to stomp it out, to try to annihilate it. But guess what? The Father was behind the scene. The Father, who is the grand Reaver, was working and rotting these people whom he called his elect into a complex form of an individual. Now you don't know what to do with them. Now there's a protection, there's a hedge over these people. You think you're going to do them harm, but the Father won't allow you to. This is why I say we're not headed into Jacob's trouble. Jacob have already been through his burden, his discomfort, his persecution, his suffering. But now we are witnessing evolution of the elect, the Father's elect, the ones that he made a covenant with. And he said in Jeremiah, I think the 50th chapter, I believe, don't quote me on it, somewhere in there, Google it. He said, as long as the stars and the sun remain, his covenant with his people shall be a continuing process. As long as the stars in the sky, as long as the sky and as long as creation exists, the Father's covenant with his people will exist as well. I just paraphrased it. That's okay. You understand what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this is a perpetual covenant. It cannot be broken. It cannot be stopped because the Father established it. Somewhere in Psalm 119 and I think 89, it say forever thy word, O Yahweh, is settled in heaven. When he made a covenant with his people, it was settled, rooted, grounded, and settled in heaven. And what did Yahshua tell us to say in our prayer? Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So brothers and sisters, the Gentiles, they can flap their wings. All they are, they ain't nothing but a scarecrow. When the wind blows, they flapping in the wind. But as soon as the wind ends, stop blowing and alternate its course, they just as still as the calm of a Sunday morning. So brothers and sisters, we have nothing to fear. Why? Because Yahuwah has initiated the evolution of the elect. That's why you see all these things going on. That's why you see the virus running rampant. That's why you see the church has been muted. Y'all muted the church. They all online. You see Pope praying for this virus to go away. Trump say that he wanted the assembly, the church, to be full on Easter. They think they can just automatically make things go back to the way it was. They're in for a rude awakening. I was driving down the highway here in St. Louis, and I see that they have altered the highway. They split it in half. My wife and I, we were talking about that about 4 weeks ago. We like, what's going on? Before they even started construction, we felt it in the spirit that something was about to happen. In Oklahoma, they already got roadblocks and checkpoints. But there's nothing to be worried about, elect. If you elect of the Father, if he chosen you, because we know that many are called, but only a few are chosen. I did an illustration when I was on the beach in Myrtle Beach, California. No, not Myrtle Beach, Carolina, California. Myrtle Beach, Carolina. And I walked down the beach and I scooped up some sand and I brushed the little sand grains out. And then I just took the tip of my finger and touched the middle part of the sand that was left in my hand. And I had my wife to zoom in on my index finger so my audience could see the few grains of sand that was on my finger. And I used that as an illustration as how the Father chooses his elect. Out of many people that's been called, only a few will go through the hardship and will stay true to the Father, that will continue to preach truth, will not try to alter it, will not try to mix it up, will not try to concoct a few concoctions so they can feel comfortable and make their audience feel comfortable in what they saying. Jeremiah didn't come with no diplomacy. Micaiah, he didn't come with no diplomacy. When Ahab and Jehoshaphat wanted to go to war, and those 400 prophets all spoke lies to Ahab, Jehoshaphat said, I don't know, man. Is there another prophet in Israel? You know what? When people want truth, they know who to go to. They will go to the Father's elect, the evolution of the elect. I have people coming to me on Messenger asking me questions about what's going on. Because the people, they know when you stand for truth, it may not be popular. It may not be the flamboyant thing to do at the time. This is why Yahshua said that, what did you go out to see when you went out to see John the Baptist? Did you go out to see a reed shaking in the wind? Did you go out to see nice garment? Did you go out to see Gucci? Did you go out to see all kinds of flashy suits that you see on television? You see how the Father brought all that mess down, because this gospel was never about that. We understand that when you embrace this truth, you will always be in opposition to the established order and the status quo. But when you stand for the Father, he said he will never leave you nor forsake you. And so now people coming up to me and they asking me, what is your take on this? I want to know your opinion. Because people know when someone stands for truth and not just speaking just to get compliments, not just speaking to get praise from men. None of the prophets got praise from men. How many people listened to Noah? Noah was an elect. There wasn't anybody that really paid Noah attention. Him and his family worked on the ark and preached for 120 years, and no one wanted to hear him. Then, when all was said and done, when everything was over, the Father shut them in, locked up the ark, and sent the rains. And you know what? Some of those wayward folks in that day, they went and got a branch and tried to bust the ark door open. But the Father had lions and all type of wild beasts that was waiting just to devour the people. And the lions drove the people away. We are witnessing the evolution of the elect. You have this U.S., I think it was a senator or someone, I saw it on YouTube, who was crying and asking the forgiveness, asking God for forgiveness of the U.S., but never mentioned the greatest atrocity known to man. He talked about abortions. He talked about all these other things that America have done, but he failed to mention them putting their hands on the Father's chosen. We are seeing the evolution, people. Those of you that are elect, those of you that dare to speak truth to power and stand up for truth no matter what. I stood up for truth, and it brought much criticism in my life. I even got preached on and got reprimanded at a funeral. The preacher tore me up, all because I dared to stand and tell the people about the name of Yahuwah. I got criticized and castigated. Guess what? I fletched and took it like a man and kept it moving. I was told that there ain't nobody listening to you. Just like Noah, nobody was listening to him either. It was told ain't nobody listening to you. I was made to feel low. But guess what? I kept on. Now I understand that the Father has called his chosen to stand and speak truth. This is a word of encouragement to all the elect. Guess what, brothers and sisters? Y'all keep standing. Do not allow the circumstances of the current situation hinder you from standing up for the Father. As the Father shutting these churches down, you still have preachers asking to send in your tithes and offerings. No, preacher. No, church. It's time for y'all to help the people that's been supporting you for decades. But you can't do it, can you? Because y'all been spending the money on yourselves. Most of you been like Hophni and Phineas. Just taking in the money, living deliciously off the backs of the people. And you thought that you was going to do it for a long, long, long time. But guess what? It came to a screeching halt. And now y'all begging for tithes and offerings and trying to desperately have service. You're not having service to really bring salvation to the people. You're having service to get those tithes and offerings. And the Father see what you're doing. See, this message can only come through someone who is elect of the Father. You're doing it, and you see that the structure of the Gentile system is diminishing. This coronavirus is going rampant, and many people talking about it ain't real. But guess what's real? The shutting down of this system. That's real. So people can say that it's fake. People can say don't no one have it. People can say that it's government made. They can say whatever they want. At the end of the day, you see all the systems around the world are shutting down. Why? Because the Father's elect, those whom he called, those whom he sealed, those whom went through the greatest persecution that the world has ever known, are now being slowly but surely developed into such a complex form that the world will have to bow at their feet, as it says in Revelation. The Father say, I will cause them to bow at your feet and know that I have loved you. So brothers and sisters, be encouraged. We're witnessing some interesting times, and it's all for our deliverance, and it's all for our salvation. We got next, Zion. All of you that truly love the Father, stand up. All of you that truly want to follow the Lamb wherever he goes, as it says in Revelation, stand up for truth. Stand up for Yahuwah. Stand up for Yahweh. Stand up for Yeshua. And don't let anyone shame you for standing for truth. I'm your brother, Servant RD, signing off. Shalom.